Good evening. Today is Wednesday, November 20th. This is a meeting of the Revere City Council's Ways and Means Subcommittee. We have one item on the agenda. It is a communication from the mayor relative to the union contracts between the City of Revere and the Revere Police Superior Officers Association and the Revere Police Employees Association. In attendance, I know we have Finance Director George Anzoni. We also have members of the committee, Councilor Haz and Councilor Powers. Unfortunately, Councilors Giannino and Guanasso are unable to make it tonight. I heard from Councilor Guanasso he's unfortunately feeling a little bit under the weather. I hope he gets better. And Councilor Giannino, I believe, was working tonight. So we do have other councilors in attendance, Councilor Correggio, Councilor Patch, Councilor Penta, Councilor Reardon, Councilor Zambuto, and Council President Ira Novoselsky. I will open it up to George if you want to come and present, and then open it up to members of the committee.
Good evening. I'm here before the City Council for the contract appropriation for the Revere Police Employee Union and, if you want to take it up together, the Police Employee Union and the Superior Officers Union. The administration had taken office in January 2012. All of the city union contracts had been lapsed. Since that time, there has been numerous negotiations that have been ongoing with all of the various departments, and the city has solved actually not solved, but has settled with units A and B, C, and also the Department of Public Works. They further, most recently, settled with the Revere Superior Officers and the Revere Police Employee Association. The unions were out of contracts in 7/1/12, and the contract that's before you was for a 3-year contract. You have the information in front of you. I also had sent down the signed memorandum of agreement to the city clerk today to distribute to the members of the city council. So it had the full memorandum. This is the summary. And I don't know if you want me to go over, which is clear, the different wages and the different percentages, but they're in the summary, and if you would, I would just like, I'll read them from the sheet, whatever you would like.
Councilor Hess.
George, as far as the contract here, are there any new additions to the previous contract?
Well, the percentages are the new additions. There's the change in the associate's degree to $3,000, annual stipend, and bachelor's degree $5,000. That's in replacement of the Quinn bill, which would be those are for the new police officers, which would be much more on a percentage basis, where the Quinn bill would have, I believe it's 10% for a, 10%, I think it's 10% for a associate's degree, and then a JD? No, it's 20% for a bachelor's degree, and I believe it's 10% for a associate's degree, and for a master's degree or more, it's a 25%. So you can see that's much less than the base pay, and that amount is much less.
Is there any other additions compared to the previous contract?
Well, what they did was, what they also agreed was the sick leave buyback when a person retires.
Yeah.
There was an increase of $5 a day for those in excess of 100 days, from 100 to less than 200, $10 per day, increase the days in excess of 200, less than 300, and $15 a day increase in excess of 300 but less than 350. However, the city was able to receive back from the police department, the police officers, both in the Superior and the police patrolmen's union, they received an amount of hours back that they had in vacation time. So there was, so these will reduce the amount of hours that they can take in vacation during the year. 5 years but less than 10 years is 4 hours. 10 years but less than 20 years, there's 8 hours returned to the city. And 10 years and over 12 hours. So that was one of the...
Okay, I get that. I'm looking at this contract, and Mr. Chairman, there's a contract that every year it comes up this way, the 3 units. I have one question because the date of the memorandum of agreement was September 19th, and it was officially sent to the council on October, but there's no date. And we just got it last week as late communications. This should have been in much earlier.
Well, one of the reasons it wasn't is because we have been appearing before the JLMC for the fire department arbitration, and not that one affected the other. However, I thought maybe by this time we would have had, the thought was, not my thought, but the thought was that we would have, at this time, maybe both units settled and we would make one communication.
Okay.
That didn't happen, so we don't know.
That explains that. I'd like to thank you and thank the council president, because this is just a standard contract submitted to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Has. Councilor Powers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question regarding the stipends. Are these additions to the stipends that are in place now?
There are additions. You mean the associate's degree or the bachelor's degree or the technical titles?
I'm talking about technical titles.
And the police employee. Oh, those are the same per annum.
So there's no increase in those? Is that what you're telling me?
I believe there was one increase in the number of range officers. That where before it was a one, I think we made it 2 range officers, so that if somebody could not make it to oversee the range, there is one more person who would be able to range, and that was a stipend for $1,000.
So just for example, and I don't mean to single out any particular position, but the detail officer, that's the $1,500 is the stipend for the that's not an increase, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Councilor Correggio?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. George, basically, how long it's been out of contract?
They were out of contract since July 1st, 2012. 2012, July 1st. Okay.
And it's been in negotiations with the mayor's staff and yourself for about, was it about a year?
We've been in negotiations since January of last year.
Right. Well, this is basically a standard contract at 1%, and cost of living, the way it is now, it just meets the criteria of the cost of living. And I'm in full support. Our police officers do a good job out there. We have a young police department. And also I want to commend you and the mayor's staff for negotiating and bringing this to a final phase. So I'll be supporting it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Councilor Correggio. Council President Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman. George, welcome. Thanks for coming and staying one of our later nights. Question on the school resource officer. It says up to 4. Are those still reimbursable? I know there was money coming in from the school department to pay for those. Is that still?
Yes, they're still put on Schedule 19.
Is that for all 4 of them?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so the grant hasn't ended and we have to pick it up now.
Right.
And I know everything's a give and take, and I know, I don't have a problem with this, but I know, let everybody know, I believe that the 2 unions, the 2 associations, actually gave up some time, on their sick, I believe, vacation or sick time.
Vacation time.
Is that what it is, vacation? So I know, that was their give and take for us. So, I think it's a well put together contract. Those are the only things I had. Now, one other thing on the range officer, you said 2, but this says up to 3, so they could put another one on
They can put another one on. That's
if they had
If
to.
somebody
so.
can be there for the range, there has to be other people assigned so that the range can take place. Because once they schedule a range time, there has to be officers there in order to.
No, will these 3 people get the 1,000
Yes, they will.
anyway during the
They'll
year?
get the 1,000 anyway, but they haven't, as far as I know, right now, they haven't started. Okay, until the contract starts, then they'll appoint the people who will be doing it, the personnel.
So other than that, Mr. Chairman, both contracts are, pretty close except for some of the titles, but I have no problem with it, and I will cast my vote in the affirmative when it comes up on Monday night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Penta?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of questions, George. The 1% each year, I mean, it's off the bottom line what the budget is of the police officer's salary. Right. So, and that's easy to figure out. You don't have a crystal ball to know how many sick hours someone's going to have.
No, you don't.
I mean, you could be sick next week for 6 months and lose all your time.
That's correct.
So that's a moving target.
That's correct.
And the other thing, you don't know how many people, new police officers are going to come on and even get their education. Right. That's a moving target. Right. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Penta. Councilor Ridd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one question, Judge. As to the vacation leave, does this reflect an increase over the previous contract? Hours of vacation, it says in Section 4.
That's not an increase over that's with the reduction of the hours that have been placed in there. That isn't that on the summary. So that's reduction. It was the previous contract was when the hours were increased, and the previous contract prior to the one that ended on July 1st, 2012, or June 30th, 2012. That's the contract that increased the hours. This contract is the contract that actually reduced the hours from the previous contract.
Let me ask you about hours of vacation. Does that include holidays? Is that inclusive of holidays?
No, that is just hours of vacation.
Hours of vacation. So after 20 years of service, as I understand it, and I did the math on it very quickly, and I'm no mathematician, but that looks like 6.7 weeks of vacation. Is that
correct?
Accurate?
That's correct.
Okay. Interesting.
It was the prior contract that placed that onto. Used to be what? 7? No, it used to be less than that. I think it was 5 at the max.
Thank you, Councilor Ridd. Councilor Zambuto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, George, for being here. And I apologize. I was out of the room for a couple of minutes, and I'm sure somebody asked the question of what the overall cost of this contract is over its duration. Huh? Nobody asked that question? I'm stunned. Come on.
It's a softball to you.
Well, I guess then it must be me that was supposed to ask the question, because I thought that would have been the first question. But okay, so the contract looks pretty standard to me. It doesn't look like we gave away much. It looks like a fair exchange of, what's necessary to solve these contracts. But I guess I asked the question, and what's the cost over the duration?
Well, the cost over duration is going to be $1.3 million to the city.
I'm sorry,
$1.3 million to the city over the 3-year period.
1.3.
Right. That's correct. The Council Hassel, and remember this when you were the mayor with these negotiations, is that one of the areas you have to look at is, first of all, you have to look at if they go to the JLMC and they go to arbitration, what happens and how the award's been given. We've been tracking this over the last since last January, and some of the awards from the JMLC have been higher than this, okay, for the respective surrounding towns and other towns in Massachusetts, city and towns in Massachusetts. The other part of it, too, is that you have to then go and look at the what surrounding towns are paying their police officers to see where you stand with that. Because what you don't want to be is you don't want to become the training center for other police departments. What happens is you hire a police department. It takes almost a year after you hire a police officer, and Council Pat, you will remember this when you became a police officer. It's almost a year before you get that patrol officer on the street because of the fact that they have to be trained and so highly trained. So what will happen is that although in other departments you don't have this, when you have somebody, you expend that money to train them, they start looking in other areas after a short period of time if their salary isn't somewhat equitable to them as far as other cities and towns, and that was tried to be accomplished in this agreement, because then you lose them, and now you have to hire somebody else, go through the cost, wait the time period to then train that police officer, and I feel our police officer today is very highly trained. So with all that specialized training, it is somewhat costly to the city. So those are the things you look at, and you have to put in balance, not only the monies, but also, what you have to do in order to, one, keep the police officer, and keep the good police officers, and keep them here in the city. So those are the things we're taking into account.
Well, I thank you very much, and I want to thank you and the administration for doing a good job negotiating this contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilor Zambuto. Any other councilors have questions? Councilor Patch.
George, thanks for coming tonight. I wasn't going to speak, but you just made a good point about the necessity of increasing the pay of the police because we've lost over the last probably 10 years. We've probably lost 10 good officers to other cities that make more money than Revere, and it's just we got to people often say they consider their salary the details, but that's a second job to them. That's not got nothing to do with the contract. And I want to say I know you were in every negotiation with the mayor and the lawyer, and from what I hear from Patrolman President Officer Tamaro and Sergeant Callahan from the Police Superior Union, that it got a little tough at times, and then you both come to a nice agreement, and I want to thank you for all your troubles during those negotiations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Patch. George, you answered the biggest question, which was how much the overall package is, $1.3 million. Mm-hmm. Do you have, or could you provide a breakdown? Just because I know for my purposes, I looked at the wages and I figured that was going to be about $400,000 to $500,000. Are there any other cost drivers that make up that 1.3? I know some of them, as Councilor Penta had alluded to, are moving targets. But do we have any? Do you have any idea how much the stipends for the associate's degree and bachelor's degree will cost, and some of the other technical title stipends? I'm guessing that they kind of add to that 1.3. So
I think as far as some of the stipends, there are only a number of people that get those stipends, and that's been included. As far as the associate's degree and bachelor's degree, those are for the people who will become, those are the people who are not eligible for the Clean Bill, and who will be, and that would include those people. I believe the 1.3 million would include those people who will be receiving that stipend for the associate's degree and the bachelor's degree.
Okay, and do we have, like, I know these are broken out in section 1, 2, 3, 5. Do we have a estimate for each of those sections, or I'm just wondering how the 1.3 breaks down?
Well, the 1.3 breaks down into what it would actually cost the city with all of these put into play. And that's what would happen. I didn't take into account what the sick leave buyback will be, because I don't know when they're going to retire and what year to put it into. And hopefully the reduction in the vacation time will actually translate into less overtime in the police department, so there'll be a savings to the police department for that, the number of hours that we receive back. So the reason being for that is because then the city will not have to, when an officer is on vacation or taking vacation time, the city doesn't have to go out and hire somebody in its place at time and a half, or double time, depending on the day. So at that point, there is a savings in here to the city in a number of ways. But in total, that 1.3 million is a conglomerate of all these figures put into play.
And the 1.3, is that coming from, I know we had some money left in salary contingency. What other sources is that money coming from?
Well, it's not, the $1.3 million isn't coming from the salary contingency. What we looked at, and when the letter was written, it says that we have enough money for this year, sufficient amount of funds for the retroactive pay increases and the pay going forward for this year, because the next year we have to handle that amount differently. So the portion of the retro is coming out of that fund for raises that we have in place, and then salary contingencies, and the additional amount of monies that would have to go into that account are also coming out of that for the salary increases for this year.
Okay, so is the money coming from the salary contingency fund? Like, I know there is money left in the salary contingency. Right. I thought there was about $600,000.
I believe 720.
So is a portion of this, the 1.3, coming from that salary contingency? Okay.
Only for the fiscal year 13 and 14.
Because I'd imagine that the bulk of the 1.3 million for the entire package is going to be for 14, which is a 4.5% increase here, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, and do we have any money budgeted this year in salary contingency? I know there was some money left over previously, but I thought that line item had been zeroed out for this fiscal year.
We have that $720,000, that salary contingency fee account that we're going to actually use to fund this, but there's no other account that we have a salary contingencies.
But this isn't related to this contract, but I think as far as the big picture, and you mentioned it, the fire department going to the JLMC, which has not been favorable for communities, but has been actually pretty skewed in favor of giving pretty big awards for fire departments. So my guess is that the agreement that we're going to get from JLMC is going to be substantial, at least 1.3, probably more.
Well, I'll tell you this: what did happen at the JLMC, and is that the city put up a great argument, as well as the fire department, the personnel put a great argument up as far as why there should be an increase in the raise to a certain percentage, and the city put up their argument in a 2-day period of exactly why there should not be. And it's taken many hours of preparation in order to get ready for to prepare for the JLMC, and during those hearings, the city put up a strong argument of why the raises should be at a lesser amount, and we don't know where that's going to land. The fire department doesn't know where that's going to land, and hopefully we'll see what happens.
And historically, I'm just saying historically, I've been through the JLMC process in another community, and historically they do give substantial packages for fire departments. So that should be something that we are thinking about, and at least kind of keep in the back of our head that we're going to be coming up with another substantial package. And I am in favor. You know, I have faith in the mayor and his negotiating abilities, and you, George. I know that you sit in and you're a vital part of making these negotiations happen. So, you know, I am in favor. I think we are just all doing our due diligence by being here and listening to what exactly the details are. So, thank you for that,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. President.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one thing I want to ask George, if I may. George, you know, over the years, I know, and I'm looking at Article 9 about paying details and about the city maintaining the $75,000 detail fund.
Right.
I know this came up Monday night at the council meeting from Councilor Patch about the city maintaining that $75,000, because I've gotten numerous complaints from police officers that they've had to wait 3, 4, 5 months for money. Now, I know it's, I've heard that we don't pay them unless we get paid from the vendor or whoever is hiring the details that day, which I personally think is wrong.
That's not the case.
Well, I'm just telling you. Let me finish, and you know, and you can. So I don't know if that's true or not, but you know, I know there's officers that have been waiting a long time. I know we have one particular questionable situation which we talked about several weeks ago with the special police officers, and one had to change his job title, I guess, to make things happen, and he's been waiting almost 7 or 8 months for his detail money. And I just want to, you know, I hear it on the street,
I know.
you know, and I don't like to hear that stuff. You know, I know if it was me, I wouldn't have to wait a long period of time, whether it be 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. When I worked for the Commonwealth of Mass, I got paid the following week for any overtime I put in. So, you know, I just like to hear some comments from you, and, you know, that this problem is going to be solved and we won't have to hear that those situations go on in the street.
There's two things that I want to comment on. One is, I believe the account's gone up to $100,000. We asked the council earlier this year to increase it, and the council did, to $100,000. And the city keeps that $100,000 in the account. The purpose of the account is to pay the officers their monies as they come in, if we can. However, if it doesn't come in and there's not that $100,000, we only go to that $100,000. And if there's, say for example, if there's work being done and the $100,000 is expended, we can't pay them. We don't have any fund to pay them out of. There's a situation that has arisen now that's a particular problem, which is the seems to be is the Winthrop Avenue situation that nobody foresaw. And there is a fix that we're looking at for that so the officers can get paid. And I agree they should be paid as quickly as possible. And those are the two areas that I think we're looking at. And I think one of the major complaints is that Winthrop Avenue project, because that's totally city funded. There's no as of right now, there's not a reimbursement set up in order to pay the details. So there has to be some sort of solution set up so that the city can pay these officers much more quickly. And that's something I've been working on with the one of the cabinet guide over there and the city auditor and the in my office to see exactly how we can pay them quicker and what we have to go through to pay them quicker. So we're working on that. That portion we're working on.
Okay, you know, I'm glad to hear that we upped it to 100,000, but, you know, I still say, if we meet that 100,000, we are still committed. These people still work for the Commonwealth, the city of Revere. We have to find the money, and I'm saying to you because you're the financial guy. You have to find the money to pay them in a timely manner. Is that can say we can't wait for the next budget? That's not in my scenario. I don't like to hear that. I want to hear that these guys are getting, gals are getting paid, you know, within 2 pay periods. I would think. You know, I don't know how often, if they get paid once a week or twice a month, but they should be paid in a timely manner. Even if if we have to go into, we transfer enough money at the end of the year from different accounts to make other accounts happy. And I think this should be happening on a regular basis, to go to other accounts earlier in the year if we have to. If it's 4, 5, 6 weeks ahead of schedule, then we do it. There are departments in this city that don't utilize all their funds during the year, and it's proven because we do transfers to make it, that we go into them and say, what can you afford? We have to make some changes now.
Yeah, I don't think that's the problem. The purpose of it being is the way a detail account works is that normally is that we sort of put in seed money, the $100,000 is seed money, and what would happen is that the payroll would be paid out of that seed money until the money is collected from the vendor. Okay. Once we get past that $100,000 authorization, which is a set account where we keep that $100,000, we don't. It's pretty much like a revolving account. We don't have an avenue unless we raise that limit of the $100,000. That's the only limit we have. We can't take money from another account and transfer it in there because it's not that type of account. What we would have to do is we want to keep it is maybe raise the $100,000 to a little higher. And if we want to do that, but that means that the city has to keep that and that amount of money aside and never use it for anything else. And that's why that's part of the negotiations when they do that. So that's usually negotiated in the contract. We agreed on that. The administration agreed on that because we felt, yes, it is a problem, and these people aren't getting paid in a timely fashion. And it's one that we are sympathetic to, but at the same time is that we have to go according to what the municipal laws are. And what we're looking at is seeing exactly how we can set something up so that and we've been working on it, how these men and women can be paid in a very timely fashion, because I don't think anybody likes to wait for their money after they've done a job. And I'm agreeing with you on that, and we're in agreement there. So the fashion that we do it is what we're looking at right now.
Right. Well, you have to realize, we're not using $100,000 all at once. There's money coming in on a regular basis. So, it would be tough to use that $100,000 all at once. Because, if you know what I mean, this vendor is going to pay during the year.
We have actually used, I will say this, when it was $50,000, we had actually used that $50,000 and gone into a point where we couldn't pay till some of the vendors started paying. That has to be only got a $50,000 limit. So when it was $50,000, and then it was raised to $100,000. So all we can do is go to that $100,000 limit, and if the vendors collection doesn't come in.
And what do we do to chase these folks? Do we penalize them for not paying?
The various departments have people in place. One is the detail officer in the police department, and the other one is the chief of the fire department, who actually go after the vendors in order to collect this money from them. And what they do is they do what they can. They do the due diligence to get that money in. But a lot of times there is a lot of details out there. There's a lot of detail work out there right now. Mm-hmm. And what happens is that if it happens at such a large period, that $100,000 gets eaten up in a few payrolls, and that's it. And we have to still wait. Everybody doesn't pay on. They bill. They get 30 days, so on and so forth. So it's a timing issue more than anything else.
These vendors have to be responsible. They should be paying within 30 days. I don't care who they are. And we should be penalizing them if they're not paying after 30 days. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Right.
No problem, Mr. President. We will be reporting this out on Monday night, and look forward to seeing everybody again in a few days. Thank you, George. Appreciate it. With that, this closes this meeting. Thank you.